Let's see if we can make this one interesting, right? So we're about to make a web API and a React front end, MySQL backend about maybe let's say an academy, right? That has, which means the project will be managing your students over a certain course, and each course has like some sort of a topic. So maybe to start off, let's see if we can ask ChatGPT to write, no, not ChatGPT, Duet AI by Google to write a few things like your app.js code and your controller code, which is your endpoints, and see if it can write some repository code to make calls to that backend. I mean, I already wrote some repository code here. I think this is just for inserting and selecting using the MySQL 2 package. And yeah, this works, right? But then let's see if Duet AI can get the job done. Maybe let's first ask it to write an Express Node.js API with MySQL 2 module about school management system with the student, the course, and topics tables. Ensure that we have endpoints and repository code to get, post, put, and delete students and courses. This is a quite big prompt, and it's, I mean, for a person, they probably get an idea, but let's see if the AI will get it, or how far can it get it. Yeah, it's still working. Yeah, I would work for this long too. Okay, that's such a very big response. My first bet would literally to be, let's just remove this code to a repository, and then let's keep this one here. My first bet would just be say, well, let's just import this whole code into the app.js file, and we're going to be, I think I'm supposed to just leave these somewhere here. Then let's create a pool like that. We don't have the password, so let's see there. And then this is supposed to work according to Duet. Yeah, right. So let's just go ahead and start our app. I could have just I could have just typed nodemon. Okay. At least it's listening at port 3000. What are some of the endpoints that this guy has? Okay. Maybe I was supposed to start with the marking criteria before I go through these things. Put a cost by ID, delete a cost by ID. Okay. I tried to do all these things. The first one is obviously get student by ID. Okay, it did the right endpoint. That's a point. It did a proper query to the backend. I mean, we could just move this to the repository, yes, but it's fine. They kept it there, and then it get the results, and then just send back the results as it is. Gets all from student. This one is get it where the ID is something. Okay, I see here they are appending to the, it's like a parameter to this ID thing. All right. Then this one, they're setting the body, and that's how they're setting it. I don't know if this will work, but let's see. This one is to update, delete student by ID, get course, that's good. Single course, add a new one, update an existing course. Okay, So I think maybe let's go and ask it for a prompt on. This is pretty good boilerplate code. I can tell you that. This is pretty good. This looks good, and then it's a point to start it, right? So if there's a few things that are missing, which I think for this one, it's not. There's nothing really missing. Then it's a good place to start. So then let's rate that pretty well. Let's ask it to, from the above code, please add the ability to get, put, post, and delete topics that fall under each course. So let's execute that. I mean, just to say, it didn't, with the first prompt, it didn't do the topics table. It kind of, kind of ignore that. It's like, I don't give a damn. I'm not going to give you that. So, but it gave us something. So I would give it, so far, I would give it a very good 7.5. Yeah, it did the job. It did the job. So with this one here, we have the courses. We have to delete, put course by ID, do that and that. Okay. Okay, I like this one, where in the did the course topics under a course. So it's like you go to a course route, and then you say, okay, for this course, let's say it's mathematics 101. Then you go mathematics 101 and then get the topics under that. And then for this one, you also then, every time you kind of need to specify the course such a topic is. Is that a good idea? I think it's fine, because it just kind of shows us that we want to be exact in that. So it's okay. Because I mean, what you could have done, it's maybe not even have this course ID, but rather just have a topic, and then you should be able to go grab the topic by the topic ID that you have there, because assuming that topic ID is going to be unique in the whole, database, regardless of the course. Post a new topic for your course. That's good. Update it and then delete it. Okay, that's pretty good. I love it. So what do we do with this one? Maybe I should just create different files for these guys. I'm gonna call it, these are controllers. We'll go back here, remove all these, insert into a current thing. We don't really need to start a new server somewhere here. We might have to just export default app. No, export, module export. I don't know if it's the same, but yeah. Module exports app. Then we can just gonna append everything else the other side. Cool. I think that will look good. Maybe we can do the very same for the other stuff. I can just remove this controller thing. I can just say, no, that was for topics. Let's say student dot controller JS. I like having the extension being kind of consistent throughout. Wait, I think I kind of added the wrong. Let's do that. JS topic controller. I'm gonna remove that. How do I go this chat? Maybe with a command. I'm gonna insert the course in here. Oh, okay. Now I see. The courses, it kind of just say, assume you already have app and all those kind of things, and then it just allows you to do the magic like that. Okay, that's good. So let's just go up here and say, for the students, let's move this accordingly. Student by ID. Let's put it there. And then the courses. Then let's just put them there. This is good. This should be fine. I just need to add the first sections to import Express here, and then be able to just use it in each file. So let's give it to the next question. I mean, you can see already, or if you go to the app JS file, it has a good structure. I mean, we moved the other file somewhere else, right? But then the question arises to say things like the student controller, JS topic controller, and the course controller don't really have a proper structure as yet, right? Which means, not to say they don't have, maybe an instance of app. So I would like us to be able to add an instance of app here and be able to export these routes and then just take them back here and then add it back to the main instance of your Express thing. So my question is, of course, how can I structure my Express app with routes and controllers in separate files? Let's see what Duet AI is going to give us. There's a good one. So the Duet AI's response, I'm just going to read it out. It says you can structure your Express app with routes and controllers in separate files by following the steps. Number 1, create a new directory on your controller, such as controllers. In the controllers directory, create a new file for each controller, such as student.js. And in each controller file, export the controller functions. For example, in student.js, you could have the following code. Okay. Okay, then it tells us how to import them the other side. Okay, this looks great. But since we already have the routes on the other side, this could work to some point. Oh, okay, I really like how the kind of, we're aware of the file that I'm currently at, and then just show me how to add the code from there. But how I want to do it is, instead of me specifying this get and post and put and delete here, I would like to specify them somewhere here. Let's see here. Let's ask the question, but then comma, without having to use get or post methods inside a JS file. Let's see how it's going to refactor that for me. But of course, I mean, you should be asking these questions because you know somehow how things needs to be, what you expect and stuff like that, right? So that is it. Let's give it a second. Ta ta ta. Oh, okay. So just give the same. This is what I am looking for. Okay, so this is what I'm looking for. Okay, I love it. I love it. This is nice. Okay, so it still gave us the very same answer, right? To say we can structure our controller like that. How can I show? How can I show this chat on the other side? Okay, that's perfect. Because I wanted to see this guy and then be able to show this. So for me, following this AI prompt blindly, I'm just going to say inside source, I'm going to create a new folder. I'm going to call it controllers. All right. And then whatever controller that I had, I'll just move it there. I'll move it there, topics, and then we're good. All right. So if maybe I need the repository, I'll explain to you what repository code would be. But essentially, it's just the code that will go and talk to your databases and stuff. And then obviously the app.js, it's our entry point. So let's go to the student controller, right? The first line asks us to create a controller. Inside, we create a JS file. And then in each controller, export the controller functions, for example, like that. I'm not going to really listen to that because I want to do the routes thing inside the very same controller so that I can manage the routes and the logic of the controller in one place, kind of a thing. Back at the app, I mean, you still remember how the app.js looks like, right? But then what I really like is if we go to our student controller, right now you can see this app instance is not been exported. Probably it's not even defined. It doesn't really even know what it is. That's why it's saying sort of type any. So to handle that is, they even explain here, right? This will allow you to keep your roots and controller separate, which makes your code more organized and easier to maintain. However, if you want to avoid using get and put and methods and all those kind of things in the app.js file, which is obviously what I don't want to do, because imagine if you have 1,000 routes from maybe 100 different controllers out there, then it means that your app.js file will be as long or super long as, you know, those kind of things, right? So they said if you want to avoid using that approach, or you know, having to add these get put methods into the app.js file, you can use a routing library such as Express Router, right? This will allow you to define the routes in a separate file and then use the app.use method to mount the routes to your Express application. The very same way you just add a, what do we call this thing? A middleware. So what I will do is I'll add Express Router. Of course, it won't really know what we're talking about there. So I'll require it, and then the moment obviously we say express.router, then it knows what you're talking about. Then you can just add all your routes straight to app instead of going to the, you can add all your routes straight to router instead of your app. And then you just choose to export your routers. I would like to call this router something a bit more, right? Let's see. Control F, no. Control F, nope. Router, I would like to replace it maybe with student router. just so that I can be a bit more descriptive. I'm just gonna replace, and then just say next, and then replace, and that's it. So that should be working. That's good. We can do the very same thing for other files, like your this course. And this one, we're just gonna call it course router. We're going to just ensure that we replace app with course router. Replace all. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, okay, those are the only currencies. And then we can do the same. That's right. I mean, if you only had the student thing, it's fine. You can keep it like that. But for me, I just want to keep at least something working so far. So you can skip the whole section here. Let's see, this is no longer student router. This is topic router. Control find app, place with topic router, and that's it. This is somewhat good. But yeah, let's forget about other controllers and only worry about our student controller. So you can see what they did here. They just add all these things to the router and then just export router. And then here at the end, they just say routes and then just use it as /route. I'm going to assume I should be able to just say module.export student router. I should be able to do the very same thing, maybe to a course. The reason why is because I just want to see course router. I just want to see if I can be able to just chain all these routes and then import them all against this one endpoint. So let's do that by coming somewhere here. So you can just say app.use. Then we can just say /API. And then we can say student router. Okay, it's not gonna find it. So this is inside const student router, then require, let's see what routes exist. Controllers, student controller, and I can just do the very same for, I think, the course controller. I'd like to just confirm course controller, and I would like to just add this and then add that as well. It's just like me saying I want to chain all these what do we call these things, I want to chain all these routers to this /API. So how can I test this? I can open my Postman. This should work. This should work. Let's remove this pool. It's not being used anywhere. MySQL 2, we don't need it here. Cool. To test that this really works, I just literally just set up an endpoint, a Postman that's going to put 3000 /API /students. And I mean, where I'm getting this route, obviously it's the route that we have here on app.js file. And then if we go inside student router, then we should be able to see that it's going inside student routes. It's a get method. And I mean, obviously it's just going to straight select from student and then, just get a list of those students from somewhere. That's all. So, I mean, okay, the reason why it's simple is because, I mean, I have a database that is running using MySQL on my computer. And if I happen to just okay, I don't think that's going to work. But yeah, that is how it is. It works just like that. So we have it working at least. So we good, I guess. So cool. I mean, I'm super happy so far with Duet AI. It's doing pretty well. I'll tell you that. But I would still want to take it to extreme, right? To say, I can see this controller looks pretty good, but it puts my repository code, which means this is the code that talks to the database, along with my API code. How about it helps us extract this functionality to a specific repository of such a controller? So how would I ask it the question? Is maybe, let's say, looking into the student dot controller JS file. Please take out any code from, let's say, my SQL 2 and put it inside student, let's say, repository.js file. So what it's supposed to do is be able to just take this piece of code, put it in, suggest how we can put that in another file, and then just makes us import functions for each in here, and then be able to just use it moving forward like that. So let's see what it does there. Okay, looks like it's bringing something. Looking into that is a code for whatever code moved to that. Okay, so I'm just gonna go and copy this. I don't really need the affected rows to be the ones returned here. I actually need the results, because affected rows will just give me affected rows. Oh, it's fine. For the ones that are created, it does that and all that. Okay, so let's go into repository, copy this file, or maybe just update the name of this file, call it student.repository, because I mean, we said we're not gonna say no to this, whatever prompt this is gonna give us. Edit to the current thing, and it looks like it copied the whole code, which is wonderful. I mean, you can still see it's returning the students, many other things from there, right? But then I would like to go back to my student controller, and like we said, we're going to trust this AI that it will do the right thing. So I'm gonna remove the whole thing and say insert. Somewhat it should just work out of the box when files to change, so that we can start. I'm pretty sure it's crying because of this. It kind of assumed that we are going to be on the very same folder, but that's not the case. So let's just update that. I mean, you would have seen the thing there at the top. It was gonna tell you module not found. Should tell you. Let's see. Let's search for report. Yeah, cannot find module here. It did tell us. So that should still work on our API, right? So let's go back to Postman, ensure we can still make our calls, and it returns empty for now. Students, get all students. Oh, with a 500 internal error. Oh, it's trying to do an await on something that is not, which means this, that's not correct. This is it. Yes, found the problem. The problem is by default, if you just say MySQL 2, it uses callbacks. What it means by callbacks is you could just use it as, I mean, the way we were using it before, when we just have a function that is returning stuff and, you know, it kind of takes the flow there. But then you see with the suggestion that our Duet AI friend, it's like a pair programmer, gave us was using await. So if you read this error, it will say you have tried to call a then or a catch or invoke await on the result of query that is not a promise, which is a programming error. Try calling call.promise or whatever, or require MySQL 2 / promise. So basically it just says, I want to still use MySQL 2, but the one that has a promise functionality. So it's like the one that you can allow you to use then and await and all those kind of things, instead of just installing, or instead of just importing MySQL 2 for, you know, for us that we can have a promise-based MySQL. So we just do it like that. And then the moment you save, that should just solve your error. That's it. And then if we click on send, that's good. Which means, again, our AI pair programmer was right. And it's doing the right job so far. Yay. So I think maybe one thing that might be very cool with this AI, right, would be maybe it be aware of some of the errors that I'm coming across from the code they gave me. Remember how we got the promise error when it was saying it expected the MySQL / promise? Maybe it was supposed to pick it up the next time it generates our, you know, our course abstract of, you know, the course repository and the course controller. It was supposed to pick it up that, hey, this is this. I know it's probably copying this from somebody's repo and try to follow the pattern, but it would be nice if it could really look at some of the issues that I'm coming across and how I get to solve them. That will be like top level things. And as well, for this one, I made it even much easier to say, hey, please use promise code. Unless otherwise I had to say, with MySQL, move to course that. And then let's say ensure you use MySQL 2 / promise next time. So I don't know if they take these prompts that we make and, you know, use it to train for next time so that we can give somebody maybe 2 options. So let's say give you an option to do it this way or give you an option to do the other way. It will be pretty cool. Let's see if it did try to use. Okay, cool. I love it. It used this one. So it's okay. It's okay. But still, I took out 0.5 points. So it's currently at 7.905 or 95 kind of a thing. So since we are super happy with our student controller first endpoint, we maybe want to just see if other endpoints work. Of course, it's just students / get student by ID. We expect it to just get a single student for us. So this is how the endpoint will be like, students, and then you can just give it the ID. Where I got the ID is, I'm just gonna use maybe one of these. So let's just go for 2 and then do that. You can see table academy does not exist. I mean, of course, we should have handled most of these errors on the back end, but don't worry. This is just for demo purposes. So I can just, but don't worry much. Let's just navigate to student, get student by ID. You can see here the name of the table should be student. I mean, whether it's capital letter or small letters, it doesn't matter. But then the name of the property we need, it's not really ID. It has to be student ID. The very same way we saved it on our database. I mean, we just have to get it like that. So after we have updated that, we're just gonna do that, and then if I say execute, you can see now it brings back a student. Of course, it's not supposed to be bringing it as that, but yeah, it's okay. It has brought up anyone that has a student ID of that. Minus 1 point, and then this is gonna take it to 7.8. Because it didn't really pay attention to me saying that it should create a student, not a student's database or table, I meant to say. So you can see everywhere else it's students, students, student, and I want it to be student because the naming is quite important. So I'm going to keep it at 7.8 right now for Do It AI. Close it up. We can just quickly go through our controllers. I have updated a few things. I mean, I already told you I'm going to update from student to student, from students to student, and then also just going to update the ID name of what we used. But generally, the SQL scripts were correct, and I'm super happy with them. So the other one was just to make sure we obviously just return the body instead of just returning a student thing, because some of this we're just returning the affected rows, and that's a different data type we would like to send back. So to quickly test this, I mean, I already have posted this student. I mean, it will tell you obviously this is a duplicate entry, but if we go and try to get it, it will be having this name and this sign name, and then we go and say, okay, let's call update. Update should update to those details, and if we go back to get, it should be having updated details. And then if should we wish to delete this user, we can just do that, and then we'll get an updated thing. And then if we do that, now you're gonna get an empty result back because there's no user that exists. But then if we try to add again, it will allow us because that person was updated, was added. So that's it. I mean, did Do It AI did the job? Honestly, 100% yes. How much job did it do for me here? I'd kind of say 90 plus in terms of percentages, right? So which is wonderful. Don't confuse this as you don't have to know coding. For me to be able to ask it the relevant questions here was because I knew what I wanted to get and how I wanted to be structured. So you still need to understand what you're doing. You just that with Do It AI or any other Copilot, you will get this code written for you probably at 10 times the speed you would. I mean, if I'm to write each and every line like this, I could maybe take, let's say, 30 minutes. But then with these less than 2 minutes, it was done writing all these things for me. I asked it to restructure some of the files, and it just kind of did that on the fly, which is wonderful, because if I had to do the very same job, I could take maybe, let's say, to write this whole API, maybe I could take, let's say, half day. But then with this one, I could take less than an hour or so. But yeah, which is pretty good.